been going into the stable markets like London, Dubai, or maybe Singapore market. For an Indian here, what we have seen in the middle income group, I think 50% people, 50% of the investors or home buyers have been waiting from the last two and a half years. And I think now they started coming back to the market. I think a lot of the inquiries have definitely gone up in the last 1 month, 1.5 month. I think in terms of a Mumbai market, which where we operate, we feel there are 2 or 3 very stable markets, and the markets which have a clear trend of going up, maybe because of infrastructure or a clear segment available where you can easily resell or you can lease out the asset in the residential segment. So Goregaon is we consider as one of the top markets in the western suburbs because of close to 400,000, 500,000 people working between 3 to 4 BPO hubs like the Mindspace as well as Nirlon and the Gokuldam area where these close to 400, 500,000 people are working. And then in terms of the eastern suburb, we have seen the Mulund market doing very well. And again, there are beautiful infrastructure. Some of the best malls are there. Best schools are in that location. And in terms of connectivity today with these 2 flyovers opening, especially Mulund and Chembur also is I think one of the destinations which has come up in the last 2 to 3 years with excellent infrastructure connectivity to the entire Bombay. So I think these are the 2-3 locations. And if you go to Navi Mumbai, again Ulve, which is very close to the upcoming airport. So I think that is one destination which is still decently priced. I think average pricing there is 5,000 rupees per square feet. So if someone has a horizon of 4 to 5 years, of course these kind of infrastructure takes a lot of time in Mumbai and in India. But if you have a fairly longer view, we feel that is one micro market, Ulve and Airoli, where Airoli, which is the closest destination to Mumbai, it is the closest Navi Mumbai destination to Mumbai. In fact, once if you travel to Airoli, it is like 15 to 20 minutes away from Powai. And with the DAKC and Mindspace and a whole lot of IT and BPOs and ITES services available there, I think Airoli is one market which holds a lot of potential. And Ulve is one market because of the airport and logistics connectivity. I think that is one more. So these are the 4 or 5 locations which we feel still have a lot of lesser supplies, a lot of inherent strength in terms of population and the aspirational class coming up to buy.
Sure. So we'll come to the offshore piece a little while later. Naveen, what are you hearing from the investors? You meet investors obviously across India. So what are you hearing in terms of opportunity? What are they seeking?
2 things have happened, which actually has impacted all of us. One is the investors' definition of long term has undergone a huge amount of change, right? So nobody understands 5 years and 7 years anymore. So when they ask for long term, the definition of real estate long term completely and it stares at you. In a way, it's good that it goes very well with the concepts and the return expected along with that. The other thing which has also happened is their long term investment into real estate must have a visibility on a regular visibility on cash flow. Otherwise, there's a huge amount of hesitation with regard to this as an investment opportunity. So these are the 2 very clear learning of this last 7-8 years from the investor's perspective, irrespective of whichever instrument they choose. I think these 2 instruments or these 2 attributes have to fit in. Otherwise, it doesn't just fly.
People from a fund manager's perspective, so what is it, where will be the opportunity, how will it pan out, how do you see it going forward from here?
Again, it depends on what term of capital I have, but let's take 2 examples. So let's assume I have relatively short term capital. When I say relatively short term, I'm assuming is 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years mid risk, you have to do credit in the Indian context, and credit will come more on the residential side of things. But I personally feel that if, as you pointed out, it takes time in Bombay for infrastructure and a couple of other places. I personally feel that if we have a proactive government and there is even 25% efficiency levels, assuming we are at 0 today, on development of this of so-called infrastructure projects. In the midterm, that is in 3 to 4 years, the mid housing, and that is housing less than 7 to 8,000 rupees, depending on city again, but in Bombay and Delhi, housing in the 3 to 8,000 rupees will actually will not grow as much as it should, because because India basically prices are high in the mid segments because supply constraints, no approvals at the local level, lack of infrastructure. If lack of infrastructure is sorted out relatively in the next 3 to 5 years, and approvals are done at a state government, so things will happen much faster. So that will correct the at least the unnatural or very rapid increase in prices. So keeping that in mind, keeping credit in the short term, 16 to 19% with say the top 30 to 40 developers, because other aspect which has happened because of the last 10 years is that the number of developers you can partner with or fund has funneled, and clearly there is a so-called their experience which everybody has, either direct or indirect, in terms of how they have performed. Personally, I feel that a very big segment, and again I would probably differ a little bit, is that if I have access to 8 to 10 year money, and there are institutions, in fact we were with a couple of them in the morning today, discussing that if we want to do long-term equity in real estate in India, that is 8 to 10 years, what are the options? But we want to do in residential and not in commercial, because India is a much better residential story from a real estate perspective than commercial. Then I think this 3 to 7,000 rupees a square foot category, if I can get into lands, you know, he mentioned about outskirts of Bombay. Similarly, if you take a radius of 50 kilometers of Delhi and Bangalore, Chennai, the big cities will keep growing with the infrastructure and all the roads and railways and all those things coming up. I think there is substantial gain to do equity for buying of land with reputed developers in the peripheral areas of the big cities, because these cities will keep growing, urbanization will keep growing. That's one, you know, these are some of the tenets which will not change, and which will happen as industrialization is given more impetus. So from a long-term money perspective, we would look at those kind of initiatives.
So just to summarize, you are saying residential is the sector that you'll bet on.
Yeah.
In the periphery of all the cities that are going to grow, and slightly longer term allocation.
That's right. If you want to do equity investments.
Sure. The other opportunity that we've read about, Naveen, is REITs, or the new change that everyone has been waiting for a long time. Do you think it's going to happen? If it happens, what does it do for investors and the real estate sector in per se?
See, two key benefits of REIT is that one, it's going to happen. To start with, it has to happen in the larger interests of the developer community and larger interests of the investor community as well. Because see, with REIT happening, two things will happen. One is investor will actually be able to participate in the commercial property market, which at this moment is beyond everybody's reach, right, across the country. Two, it is actually going to help create a platform for some kind of price discovery mechanism, because right now, in the absence of a regulator, I mean, we all have seen two properties, same location, two prices being quoted, and both are justified. Okay, there's no rationale, but that's the way it is. So with REIT happening, there will actually be some kind of price discovery as well. So the key benefit to investors will be the one, now he's in a position to actually own a part of a commercial property of Bangalore or Hyderabad based in Bombay.
Right.
Okay. And two, he will also be able to liquidate and get out of the instrument trade, because now it's a listed instrument. So he need not actually wait for the next 4 or 5 years. Depending on his visibility and understanding of the market, he can do that. So that's actually the key benefit. And I think the more important one is that this will actually help rationalize the prices, which right now is fairly unexplainable.
So in summary, you're saying liquidity. You can
To the investors.
You can obviously diversify your investments.
Yes.
So when do you think this will come true? is there a map for this? Is there guidelines, something?
I
that
can
you have-
ride on the theme of Achhe Din Aane Wale hain. So I think let's just
Right,
wait
so
for
that is what all of us are riding on. I have one last question from Shobit before we open up for Q&A. Offshore. So is it, does it make sense? What are the opportunities? How do you access it?
You know, at Knight Frank, we've had this internally, you know, we've had this integration, so to say, from a global level, and I think a lot of firms will have that the client ultimately is the same, and the client is becoming globalized, you know. And today, therefore, we need to become globalized ourselves. So we've had clients coming to us saying that, okay, I have enough, or I have adequate India exposure, and I've bought my second, third, fourth property. And therefore, now, you know, I would like to look at something offshore, and what is that you bring in. And firms like ours who have a global presence, of course, can fulfill that need. And as people have been mentioning earlier, you know, the first steps typically have been the more mature markets of UK and US. Dubai, of course, has been very exciting to a lot of people. It's very close to India. A lot of people say it's a cleaner version of Mumbai. And the markets are very exciting there. There's some interest in Singapore, Hong Kong, but what happened lately was that the markets heated up so much that the local governments imposed a 15% additional stamp duty on offshore buyers. We believe offshore is going to grow as the client side demands it, and also another thing that will happen is that the opportunity is to how to do the execution. You know, today you can buy a stock of Google on the NYSE. Can you do it with as much ease as you can buy a Mumbai property sitting in Bombay, as you could do a New York property? Now, if we can able to figure that point out, I mean, I think there's a very big market there.
Great. If none of us have any points to make, we are open for Q&A.
someone out there wants to ask a question. I think there's a mic there.
The rally obviously for last 5 years has been definitely there. What do you think has been, is it because partly of the impact of unaccounted money and KYC norms getting stricter in all the asset classes? And the only place where you can put in unaccounted money is real estate. So all that money getting diverted into real estate and that fueling the speculation in the asset. I don't know.
Vipul, you want to take this?
So what makes you think it will not continue?
Well, transparency, be it the regulatory mechanism coming in or transparency improving in the sector, if it happens in the next couple of years.
Well, yes, I think partly what you're saying may be correct, or it may contribute at a micro level. See, real estate is state subject, so at different levels it works differently. Obviously, the so-called unaccounted money is a factor, but to say that it is responsible for the so-called, or it is the primary driver for the so-called rapid increase which has happened in the last 5 years, I think will be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, stretch, but because all other asset classes became strict in KYC norms, this was the only asset class where you can at least put in money without actually playing around with it.
Yeah, but the only one which has probably become stricter is equities.
Equities, or be it even mutual funds, every banking regulations became stricter. Foreign money, there was a lot of talk of black money being, brought back into India, so people started bringing it back, hoping that, there might be some norms coming in. So because of all of that, it just triggered the price rise.
So whenever bulk money is brought in, it probably would result more in appreciation in land prices. I don't think it will be a factor or a very significant factor for appreciation in end user prices.
Okay.
So,
and any hope of transparency coming into the sector anytime soon? Like you have in foreign markets, you get the exact price at which the property was sold, be it at any location, last traded price in that location, etc. Any chances?
Anshu is a regulatory expert, so Anshu is the person who will probably more.
I don't think, so far we don't even have a real estate regulator. So what you're asking for is a tall task. And go to a country like China. So I don't know if, how many people have observed this. In December, Shanghai prices went up by 19%. In January, they went up by 11% on top of 19%. So we are nowhere close to that hyper scenario. I think those times are still far away. And also be mindful that this country is going to grow from $2.3 trillion economy to about $5-6 trillion economy in 5 to 7 years, plus minus few years here and there. That itself creates a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, demographics are definitely supporting an urbanization in
And
terms
see,
of
which is what has happened in China. China has gone from about $5 trillion to about $9.3 trillion today. And you can see the frenzy there. So I don't think we are anywhere close to what we can see in the next few years.
Sure, thanks.
An observation that I might have here and followed by a question. The role that real estate funds, which have been coming in over the last couple of years, seems to me to be replacing the original band of investors. That was the developer and his close coterie of internal investors comprising of maybe Bollywood stars, maybe politicians, maybe businessmen, a lot of whom had cash, and real estate was the only place where they could park it. This set and segment of investors were those who had no interest in asking for what is the return per year. All right, if it's not selling now, if the demand is not there, it'll go after 5 years. They will stay put because if they reduce the price, their whole inventory valuation would come down. By replacing that segment of investors who had an vested interest in making sure that prices don't come down, if we are now replacing it with a set of investors whose only question will be, what is my return in the current year? The margins, as you correctly mentioned, the 2x margin and 3x margin which they talk about is purely notional. With the passing of time, the margin will collapse. Once margin collapse, the fund managers will lose their nerve. And once they lose their nerve, I see a possibility of a bubble bursting. We have prices which have been maintained up, whether fueled by inflation, whether fueled by cash component, as the earlier speaker said. My question is, what is the level of real demand in India? Supply